Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. Glad you're here tonight. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And while you're here, always be mindful and be respectful of families, mods, and each other. Some of the rules that we go is let's not throw out any names, full names out there other than the ones that have been law enforcement have issued either arrest warrants for or search warrants. Um, uh, Tonight, we're going to be looking at a new group of people that, of course, was mentioned in the Frank's motion. Some of the Odin followers, ever how you want to look at that group of individuals as a religion or cult or whatever. But everyone has the right to worship whoever they wish to at any point. But we're also going to be looking at Richard Allen. And as always, he's has been arrested, probable cause affidavits, search warrants executed, and he is a suspect. He's currently housed and being held in the Indiana prison system. But even being held in the prison system, he's still innocent until proven guilty. So, and he has family and everything. So let's be respectful of the family because some of the family have absolutely nothing to do with this. And just like a lot of these other individuals that will be referenced tonight, not all of them could be involved in the homicide. Could they be, as as Doug Carter said, tentacles going out there, and there may be certain involvements? Absolutely. Who knows? We don't know what the final findings will be from the court and what will happen in the coming days. But I want to look at it tonight from the standpoint that if you was a new person and had very little knowledge of this, and people started presenting and coming to you and saying that, imagine that you was the commander and you was given this task force and you had very little knowledge of this crime. And so you're calling in all your investigators saying, who did you investigate? And who are these people? And what are your beliefs? And how did it get down to the point that of all these people, Richard Allen is the one that they focused on and is the target of these probable cause affidavits for the arrests, the searches, and ultimately the one that has been charged and is the target of these charges. And that's what we're going to be looking at tonight, and trying to, reflect back and make sure, because, we should always look back and say, okay, what if I'm wrong? What if I've looked at this in the wrong way and it's not Richard Allen? What if it is one of these other guys? What if it's a combination of some of these other guys? And why would law enforcement not go after some of these targets that during the investigation? That's exactly what happens. That as you build certain information, certain people stand out. And so you're going to look at them. I mean, you're looking at them trying to figure out every clue and how can that clue assist us in evaluating either this individual is the one that's responsible or he's not, and what breaks him away from it. So there's a lot of information on that. Before we get to that, though, I'm going to go in here and get started with the slide show. And while the slideshow is going on, if you have any questions or anything, throw them up there in chat. And I'm by myself. This is our new studio down here in Florida. But Mrs. Steve's in another room right now. It's working on one of our code cases that we're working on. lot of information came in, so she's trying to catch up on that, and I appreciate that. So we got to do a lot of stuff on other things. So she's in there working on that now. But if you have any information about this case of Libby and Abby, Richard Allen, make sure law enforcement has that. They'll take information all the way up and into the trial. So we have to make sure that they're fully aware of the situation so that justice can be found. All right. Before I get started further past this, let's look in chat right quick, see what's going on. A lot of good people I see here. It's members and subscribers, recents. I appreciate all y'all being here. And I just don't want to get too far behind. And Wallflower, Alabama, BG, Witchcraft. That's a wonderful name. Sherry Faye, Night Shadow, Single Mom. There you are. Black Widow, Olivia, BG, Andy, Linus. Okay, Olivia Sensei. Hello, how are y'all doing? Yes. The Mead, Cunningham, Solar Chef, Steph. Oh, yeah, we got a few people in the house tonight, and we appreciate all. Metal Mama. Yes, I'm having a great weekend. Hope y'all are also. Don't want to get too far behind there. There's Chris, Matt, Molly. Good to see you. And I've got to get in touch with you, Molly, about certain things I need to discuss with you about some that as I travel into the Midwest, as we start getting plans of travel plans, I need to check in and I know you've offered to assist us in the past, and I would love to have some assistance on one of our future cases. I appreciate it. So I'll be getting in touch with you. Amelia, good to see you. Let's see here. Sparky. Sparky. Nightbox in the house. Can't do it without Nightbox. Jan. And Sandy says, Bama Sin. Hi, good to see you. Ziggy. And get within a few minutes of it. Misbehave, Renee. Make sure I'm not having any questions yet, but we're going to be getting in there. Roxy, Renee. Sharon, Misbehave. Here we go. Let's see. Tony says, Mr. Steve, per the recent news of the lost interview recordings, do you have any law enforcement stories of lost, destroyed evidence and then which may impact their accompanying cases? Yes. I've had where you go into an interview room and things can happen. The equipment fails. You hit the wrong button. You throw a tape in that you ask for a tape and somebody throws you a tape. You put it in and you record, and another investigator used that tape a few hours earlier. Now this is in a little bit older days when we didn't have the digital recorders and things happen. And I've even had the point of one time with of turning in my recordings to be transcribed and being notified, a week or so into the further down the road that, oh, we've lost your recording. We lost the confession. We've lost the transcripts. We don't have anything. And all I have is notes. So it happens. And that's a hard, rough time on the stand because the defense attorneys, anytime. But you still have your notes and your questions and whatever your memory is and how good it is. And you have to proceed with it and do the best you can. And like I said, will these law enforcement officers face some hard times on the stand? Absolutely. Will they learn from it? Absolutely. So yes, it happens. Because it's easy, while things do occur, it's sad and it can be in the worst time. Now, the case I had was nothing of the significance of what this case is. It wasn't a homicide, thank goodness. Now, the Does it happen with homicides? Absolutely. It happens with every case. Things get misplaced. You know, it's sad, but you know, there's a lot of stuff goes on in these investigations. And I think even Holman, when he said it's chaos, and he's absolutely correct. When you first start, when you get there, boots on the ground, from the first responding officer up into the investigators, and until all the personnel there, all the support personnel, CSIs, and you start getting control of the situation, it is chaos. And once you get control of it, until everybody gets settled in, it's still chaos. You know, because people are coming up to you, what can I do? What do you want me to do? Where do I do? Where do I go? What's happening? And so it's even with the training, there's mishaps that occur, but and we know with this case, we saw on the through the news briefings this huge gathering of law enforcement officials from multiple agencies creating this huge front to attack and attempt to identify this offender early on. And of course, it didn't. They had an opportunity, but he slipped through. If we go with the path that Richard Allen is the one that's responsible, from early on, there was an opportunity. But we also see from early on, there was a lot of suspects, and even ones that we didn't know about and that we've reflected back upon quite often. Gosh, I've been on a Delphi binge of old videos and creators. Steve, if you were DC, how would you have handled this case all the way to now? I have no problem with Doug Carter, brilliant and control. His moment of weakness of giving me a headache and still gives me a headache is those sketches. Drives me crazy. But early on, he was the man. Made some great communication attempts, had a strategy, went by that strategy, and he was the man that appeared to be absolutely, totally in charge, and was. But no, I don't have a problem with what he did early on. The only problem I ever would have, and I have certain experiences in leadership as far as the crime scenes. The individuals, the majors, the upper chain of command, police chiefs, sheriffs, they're on a different level. Public relations officers, those guys. It's far different than the training that we have as far as the of what happens at the crime scene. Well, I'm qualified to handle crime scenes. I'm not qualified to handle public relations, so I can't give advice of something that on that level of what they did. I can admire what was done, but I just can't go and say this is how I would critique that, because I have some great stories of some of my public relations interactions with news agencies that got me put on late shift a time or two. But other than that, people that are members and things, they understand. But no, I don't have a problem. Early on, I think it was handled about as good by creating that front to put as much pressure on the offender that these are the people behind me, that we're coming for you and you're going to pay. There's no hiding for the fact that something might happen. He may break and run, or as they may have people under surveillance to see how they react to this news conference. Phones, there could be search warrants, taps, whatever, all across the board. We don't know all the strategies that was being employed at the early stages. And we know that there were certain people being looked at and across the board. And so we have to kind of look at that. All right, I'm at 8:05. So let me get into the presentation here a little bit. Okay, of course, this is the area we're looking at. Of course, everyone has seen the Monon High Bridge trail system. I've been there. I've walked it. I don't know how many times I've been there now. Mrs. Steve and I went there early on trying to see how hard it was to find. Done several tests there, from locating my phones, pinging it, to being to the crime scene, going in there in absolute darkness, navigating the hillsides, almost falling off an embankment or cliff. It's almost cliff. Some of those places would qualify as extremely dangerous and hazardous areas. Been there in different seasons, and extremely revealing in many cases. I mean, when you look at where this crime occurred and you see someone coming up the driveway across from Deer Creek from where the crime scene is, and you look at the vehicle and it's only 100, 200 feet away from you. It's not far. I mean, if and you could have identified someone at that closest point from driveway to crime scene. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So if the individual that lived on that property was coming home and passed through there during a critical time, most certainly whoever the offender is would have realized it and would have seen them. Now, I know that when I was there, the family across the creek did pass by, and they stopped their vehicle and looked right at us. And like I said, they recognized that we were there. I recognized they were there. At that time, there's a gap in the tree foliage, and you can look up on the hill and see the house on the hill and certain parts of the house on the hill, not totally, but you can see certain parts of it. And then, of course, early on, like I said, everybody jumped on Keegan Kline train, including me. I mean, I looked at him hard. When that transcript came out and the search warrants were issued and everything that occurred to and about him, who wouldn't look at this individual? And in law enforcement, if they were just looking for a scapegoat, this is the man. I mean, this individual here is a predator. He is a predator of children, and he is serving time for that. This individual here is scum of the earth to me. I have no use for him, and I'd rather he never get out. Don't know eventually what will happen with this individual, but if they were looking for an easy person, and as you read those affidavits and you read that transcript and those interviews, that yes, if you was on a jury, would you have convicted him knowing what was in there? There's a lot of people that I guarantee you, it may not be able to get a conviction on it, but you get a hung jury, because this individual here fit everything from searching for DNA on a body during that, left at a critical time, searched them. Now, if all that is true, that's from the search warrants and affidavits and from the transcript, if all that is true, then absolutely, this would have been an easy sell to a lot of juries. And so, but what made law enforcement say, no, he's not the man? And that's what we have to look at. There had to be something that from this easy out on this individual that said, no, let's step away from him. We can't get a conviction on him for the fact that there's something that didn't match him. And what could that be? And what would that be? And as trial approaches and when we ultimately find out, it may be absolutely a clear picture, clarification of what they had on him. And is he involved? You know, there's a lot of stuff that he's not out of the picture of being one of those tentacles on this in no shape, form, or fashion. And so we have to look at that, and that he is absolutely, if you was looking at one of the targets, this boy here, you know, looking up the, and if it's true about the service station, the marathon there in town, looking it up and then saying that I was supposed to meet with him. I mean, there's a lot of things there that would have convinced some people on a jury that yes, because if I was on a jury and you just had to say that there's some type of relationship between him and Libby and Abby, hey, I'm there. I'm there. Then we go to another one, Ron Logan. If you read that FBI search warrant and where they proclaim that he is the offender, I mean, it's for a lot of people, and when that if you went through a publicity, publicity of asking the masses, and when it was put out there that we have a lot of votes that says that this is the individual's responsible, he's an easy sell. Would he? I don't think he would get as many guilty verdicts that if you threw him in front of a jury as you would with Keegan Kline. But he would get some votes, and and the individuals that had him tagged prior to, because there's certain individuals that had already focused on him and knew certain things and details, even, and then when the search warrant came out, you know, it's all Katie bar the door. This is the guy. And could I really argue with him at the time? No, because, he did certain things. He asked for an alibi at a time that he shouldn't have. His phone was pinging all over, but when I went out and did my test about the pinging, I can't really say that the pinging is something that I give a lot of weight to in that area, for the fact that I pinged all over the place and sometimes only moved 4 or 5 feet. Okay. But we, Mrs. Steve is texting me from up there. But anyway, and that's the thing that we have to look at, is that there was a lot of easy sales. And when you looked at everything that was in that search warrant for the, and what they gathered from the Logan properties, there was something that said, yeah, we could convince quite a few people that he's involved. But there's something that said, no, we have to back away from him. We can't just go after him. And what was that? And I don't know. And we have to look at this now with our next group of individuals. That's something that absolutely and is still that, as far as when we get into moving on up the possibilities, that when you have a group of individuals, that, of course, the defense has to come up with an alternate suspect. Well, when you have a group of alternate suspects, that one of them says, hey, I was there, and says something about the crime scene that shouldn't be known, regarding sticks and about DNA. And we don't know what DNA they have. We don't know how good of a sample it is and where it will lead. But, and they had some of this information way back. This isn't stuff that on any of these individuals, it's not stuff that came after the Richard Allen arrest. We had a lot of this stuff or all of the stuff is in the file from way back when. And what convinced, even with them, that you've got an individual that says, I was there, this is what we did, I was responsible, I spit, or I'm a witness at minimum, and I spit on one of them. And the family, who absolutely believe, they believe what the brother said or the relative said. And of course, they report it to law enforcement, and they pass polygraph because it's a truthful admission to them. Now, they don't know how truthful it is from whatever level of intelligence or what his moments of fame are. But once again, this is an easy sell for law enforcement, and we don't know the full extent. We're going by what the defense says, that this is what we've they have, and they didn't follow through. I don't know. Now, am I happy with everything that law enforcement did on this? And I think that there's going to be some hard times on the stand regarding the Odin investigation. Even with a professor from one of the universities, that when you look at some of the timelines of when he spoke to him, and then when he denied that, we don't know, there's issues there. And I'm not happy with those issues. But that still doesn't mean that everything on this points directly, and that, but there are going to be hard times, and those individuals have to face whatever happens in court. And during that, I've got some pretty good questions that I would want to be answered also regarding this. All right, before we go any further, let me see if I can get caught up with chat, guys. Sherry Faye. Sherry Faye, it says that you wanted to become a member. If you'll send me an email, I will send that to you. And if one of the mods can send you that, it depends on what type of device you're on. But there's other ways that if you're not on a laptop or some type of computer, if you're just on a device, that there's other steps to be taken. If you send me an email, I'll send you a how to get through that process. All right. Let's see here. Sandy says Westminster's 3 case. I'm still buried in it. That is a case that I really have some thoughts about, and at some point I probably will look into a little bit further, and because it's like everything. There's certain details that occur, and how can that be? Dwayne's prospecting. Good to see you, Bama. Yes, this is did you make a ditto of your Georgia background? Yes, I did. This is just a replica of the Georgia background. Lee and Susan Trainer, good to see you. Get this thing out of the way. Let's see here. Lizzie Jones, Criminal Med, Too Much Mom, Sparkle Berry Shine, James Powers, NHL Pins, Sharon Heaney. Good to see y'all. Just looking for questions. Don't want to get too far behind on the chat and stuff, guys. I appreciate everybody being here. Hope everybody's being respectful in chat. Copper Horse is here. Good to see you. Gail Hurd, Olivia, Kim T. When law enforcement starts losing things, credibility goes down. Yes, I think more of there's confidence in their skill sets and things, but it does occur, and it's sad. It shouldn't, and but we try to safeguard it. We have processes, we have training, but worst, if it's going to happen. And when that train wreck starts to happen, and it domino effect kicks in, I've seen some madhouses, and I've seen people almost get in fights, and everything stops until you get everything found and corrected. It happens. I'm not going to defend and say that they don't. Gail Hurd, gifted one true Crime Web membership. Thank you. Now this is our new blue light, so that's on this one. So thank you. It's a little bit brighter, but thank you, Gail. Let's see if there's any more questions. TV home. Do you think they have results back yet on everything they seized in this yard card? They should. Yes, they're ready for trial and everything. Are they moving forward with trial? They probably have. So technologies now, I remember when we were having to send stuff off in the early days of even fingerprints. APHIS hasn't always been out there. APHIS is nowhere like when you turn on TV now and you look at CSI and they're able to do it in 5 minutes. When I retired, APHIS had been out there a long time, and it still was a multi-hour process, and probably still is, because regardless of what that computer says, you still have to have an expert look at that and do the final comparison. Now, unless they change something in the court systems, it still takes the opinion of that expert individual to tell you why this matches that. It's not just that, the computer says. Now, at some point, AI may get to that level, but it's not there that I know of currently. Josh, he has an opinion the sketches are somehow a strategy. I wish I knew the house. Yes, I do too. I get a headache. Is there a legit confirmation of claimed early search warrants which were never carried out? I don't think, I've never been anywhere where there was a search warrant that if you went to a judge and got it signed, that it wasn't carried out. You carried it out regardless of what, because you took up the court's time, you took up the judge's time, and you presented that, and you had reason to go there. If you're just going out doing blanket search warrants and not serving them, there's issues there. And so if that's the case, there are going to be some hard times on that also. That's my opinion. Mr. Steve, didn't DC say at one point the photos would eventually make sense when all the facts came out? I'm trying to figure out which photos you're talking about. The sketches, maybe, but I don't know if I can't remember. And I'm sure there's times now that he may have mentioned photos, but I'm unaware of that. Yes, Vegas. I agree. Uh, Steve, do you think that KK's phone he conveniently didn't turn in on the initial search could play a role in identifying communications media on Richard Allen devices? And there may be part of the strategy for that, that while law enforcement went in there, that they may have already acquired all his device information, that we know he has this. He was the focus, you know, you when you acquire and obtain a search warrant, that's not the first thing that you do. You investigate that person, you gather all the facts, all the information, so that when you go to that judge, this is the reasons, we're on into the investigation days, if not weeks of this, that you have a lot of information that I'm going to verify that he has these phones. We've got whatever's occurring. We have confirmation to a certain level. And then when you get the phones, it should confirm a lot of things. Now, during the search warrants and you acquire certain information, it would be supporting and it may lead you further down certain trails. But could have been that, yes, we know he has one phone. He withheld it. And which, if he had been charged with that, that'd been another nail in his coffin in a trial. That, oh, you didn't cooperate, you didn't turn everything over to us, and until much later. And but something that's very interesting, and could have been, and may have be one of those tentacles. Phil Hamilton, Mr. Steve, how surprised or shocked would you be if Alan did it and LA finds no prior connections with Abby and Libby and no evidence of SA on his devices or clothing? Um, is it possible that I have no doubt that if Richard Allen is the offender, that he targeted him at some point? And that's the key thing: is when does an offender target an individual? If on his devices he has knowledge of them or any type of research, then yes, he had targeted them way back. But if there's nothing and no way, doesn't mean that he hadn't seen them on the trails prior, because from my understanding is that some place that he frequent, and if they frequent it also, their paths probably crossed before. And was it from those earlier encounters, weeks or months before, of where creepy guy comes from, or did everything just occur that day? Don't know, because creepy guy can reflect back to a time that, yes, maybe he was tracking them on an earlier walk that they on those trails, and who knows? But we can also say that we have supporting evidence that other females that day that saw an individual that Richard Allen confirms that he saw them, they saw him, that say that, he was on a mission. There was something strange about him, and I remember him. And so I would be, I won't be surprised if there's not, but uh, with him being on a mission, I think that he knew they were going to be there. But that's just my opinion. But good question. Mr. Steve, did you take video there? Yes, I've got video of the trails I walked, went out on the bridge. I'm trying to think, did I do any video at the crime scenes? I don't think I did. But I did videos on the trail and on the bridge before it was repaired. Actually, I went out there even before they updated it. Josh, Steve, I heard several sources, creators indicate that Richard Allen or the offender may have traveled to Peru after the deed. Is there any LE statements that might indicate that, like the Wabash search? Well, if anything in Peru has to do with this case, either it has to be Richard Allen went there to see family, and or in the area for whatever reason, or we have to look at Keegan. Which what was that? We don't, and because they spent some time in that river. It wasn't just a training exercise. Sandy, I'm with you. I am with you. There's a lot of stuff there. All right. Let's see. Get on in here. Thank you. It's very kind of you, K Music. And Jocelyn has hit it absolutely out of the ballpark. Law enforcement, they do. We get little snips here and there, and now I've seen a lot of things. I've seen some images that are possibly of the crime scene. I've been to the crime scene. I've been there. Uh, Doing certain type of testing, time trials, pings, um, and while I may have a little bit of knowledge more than some people, as far as being boots on the ground, there's people out there that have far greater skill sets and notes and interviews and documents. They got volumes of it, and they've read every word in those documents. I'm not so much into those. I scan through the index and I look at whatever the introduction for that chapter is, and I know what they're going to be going from my law enforcement career. That if they are talking about a certain type of vehicle and it's identified at the paragraph, that everything in that paragraph following it tells you why that about the heading, and so. Because I scan through a lot of stuff. Sadly, drives Mrs. Steve crazy. Hello, Fig. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Mr. Steve, for sharing knowledge and insight. I learned something new every time. Thank you. That's very kind of you, sir. Glad you're here. Appreciate you being here. He has some great videos. If he makes a video, I mean, I my volume view count versus his. Um, hate Thor's mirror, Hather's mirror. Okay. K music, yes, on the Odin's. Good point. That not that we know of. What we got going on here? Trying to get caught up here, guys. So far behind. I'm only 19 minutes behind, but I'm trying to get caught up. And now we're going to go into that of all these scapegoats that we could have looked at, all the evidence, all the easy outs that law enforcement could, say that, yes, let's focus all the and twist and turn the wording and say that it's the Odinist, it's Ron Logan, it's Keegan, Kline. Let's put everything on them, and or any combination of them. That, oh, we have a hole here, so let's throw him in there to cover this because we have a deceased individual that you could pretty well do anything, and who will come to his defense? There's no one to argue that he's not, from the supporting of the Odinist to supporting of Keegan, Kline, that we have this individual that FBI, the know-all, high standard FBI says this is individual, he's involved, and this is why he's involved. And so that from that we go into this individual who says, and the defense, and he's the one that called law enforcement. That's in his behalf that he did. Why? Well, for the fact he could be trying to be helpful, or that I got to cover my tracks because someone might witness and saw me there that day that recognized me. He met with LE. He answered their canvassing question and flew under the radar for years and years and years, past all of Keegan, Kline's evidence. He flew under the radar past all of Logan's, all of the Odinists, and all that information. But now everybody's saying that, well, we have an election that was coming up and they had to arrest someone. They could have arrested any of these other guys. And at some point they could have dropped charges. So an arrest could have been made because they had more than enough reason to any of these individuals, maybe not some of the Odinists, but at least one of the Odinists that says, I spit on the girls and I know certain details, that, yeah, we might could have pressed some charges against him. Don't know how far they would have went through the court, but there's people been arrested with far less. I can tell you that. And but that for some reason they didn't go after those guys. But now we're going to go down to the local pharmacy. We're going to find this fellow who called law enforcement, met with law enforcement, answered all our questions, says, I was there, didn't see anybody, didn't see anything. And then, of course, we go into the different, his 2017 information to what happened on October the 13th on his last one. And you compare the two and fills in a lot of information. And they do a search warrant, charges are brought, and they went after him because whatever took them away from Keegan, Kline, whatever took them away from Logan, whatever took them away from the Odinist, did not take them away from Richard Allen. So whatever that information is huge. And it's that information that I believe, in my personal opinion, that will probably lead to his conviction. And of course, we've all looked at it, that these are the details within this of why we, think that it is him. Law enforcement thinks it is him. The prosecutors think he is. The courts have held him without bond and put him into the prison system for protection. And the people that are crying he's innocent are the exact people that should be crying that he's innocent. That's his defense and family and supporters, although not a lot of supporters, but he does have some. Well, I have to take that back. There's a whole social media massive group of people that are on his side. And, we should appreciate that. We should thank the people that are supporting and saying, let's look at Richard Allen. Do I hate and say that you shouldn't? No, for the fact that it's through the ability of respecting that these other people say that, well, this is the ones that are responsible. These are the people who are responsible, for the fact that slows down the process and absolutely makes sure that the court system, the juries, the prosecutor, the defense gives him his day in court. And so I have no ill feelings towards anyone. And regardless of their opinion, now I may not agree with their facts and the way that they interpret them, but we have to have that. And so we do have this large group of individuals says it's not him for a variety of reasons. Okay, present those reasons, and they can be very supportive of your stance. Absolutely, that's the way it should be. So I'm never going to go to battle with another group of individuals about that. That yes, I understand that. Don't agree that you're correct. In my opinion, I think that law enforcement has the most definitely has probable cause enough to make that arrest and bring these charges. No ifs, ands, and buts about that. But once again, this is where it went on. But as far as looking at the fine details of where the crime occurred, of course, um, Keegan Kline looked for, if we look at it, he's supposed to have met them near this area that day. If you take the transcripts, he looked up a service station within, as the crow flies, just within a mile or two of this, made statements that they're supposed to meet him. So it's all huge, but law enforcement said no. Then you have the known individual that had a history of abusing women uh, from the FBI affidavit and on his property in a place that he has access to, that he could easily clean up the crime scene, easily hide victims, that he did that. Then they, for some reason, they back away from him. Then we have this group of individuals, followers of Odin, that say, we're going to go have a sacrifice. Where can we go? Well, let's drive down to Delphi in our Odin bus, or ever how would they have gotten there? Where would the vehicles have been? And is it going to be in the cemetery? I mean, we're talking about multiple people. Is it just one vehicle, large vehicle? What is it? And where did they park? And not only are we going to have to travel there, but now let's go and commit a crime. And regardless of who committed a crime, it's probably one of the worst selection sites. And they were very fortunate to get by with it for the fact that the day I stood there at the crime scene, a guy passed by us who owned property across the street, stopped his vehicle and looked right at me, and then went on up to the house. And like I said, you can see uh, parts of the house. And if you're standing in that yard, I'm absolutely sure that you can walk to the edge of the yard and look straight down on the scene and see everything that you would need to see, especially during that time of year. All right. I am way behind, guys. You're just going to have to bear with me. Yeah, he is a liar. Oh, my goodness. And that's another thing, that how would he have ever been able to deny the charges? He's a liar. Let's see here. CJK, good to see you. I may miss a few people. Brenda, working on $10 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's get back in here, scrolling down through here. Appreciate all y'all's support. I wonder if the new advances in the nuclear DNA over the mitochondrial DNAs, such as are currently used in the list, has enabled law enforcement in Delphi to positively point to Rich Allen. If that ever comes the case, there won't be a trial. He'll just give me whatever. We got a new member, and I'm going to have to get you the uh, tell me how to pronounce that first part, Mary. Sorry, but thank you for being a member. I appreciate your support. For Steve, is it common protocol to swab an entire body? How do they detect for non-visible fluid on a body? Um, Now, swabs are taken for certain areas, and if there's certain, there's a lot of alternate light sources that you can use while during autopsies to scan the body with those different light spectrums and see certain fluids and other things. So, not while swabs don't occur all over the body, there is a process to see if there are other type of fluids on that body. But there are certain swabs that are routinely used in certain areas of the body. Good question. Tom in. Appreciate it. Hello, Steve. I hope all is well. Thank you for all your hard work. We appreciate it. Justice for Abby and Libby. Thank you, Tom. Great supporter. Bama, Steve, true crime. Is the state required to turn over Odinist info if they looked at this angle and then discarded because no evidence to support this path? Yes, anything that they've investigated, because you don't want to get in that there's anything exculpatory in that information. They're going to do a massive dump, and we've seen that with the Koberger case. So it's not up for the prosecution to decide what that yes, we went down this path and we don't believe there's any findings of supporting evidence there involved. Doesn't mean that the defense won't go in there and have a different perspective. Yes, and that's one of the things, but that we always had tentacles, and then you know, uh, lone wolf versus multiple offenders. Why down the hill? So yes, but yes, that is a key point because BG and Keegan Kline have nothing in common. Doesn't mean that Keegan can't have friends that might fit that profile of or that description. But yes, um, very true. Good to see you, Lone Pony. Amazon, Father. So excited! I'm finally made alive. Thank you. Glad you did also. And if I've missed anybody with a blue light, I apologize. I'll go back through all of them here in a minute on the start. Southern Gal, good to see you. Mr. Steve, where was the phone found near the body? Was it ring on? My understanding is there was a phone found underneath one of the victims with a shoe. And now, as far as was the ringer on or not, I don't know. That's interesting. But it was near the bodies, from my understanding. I don't know if DC is still superintendent over ISP or not. Connie Hill. I often wonder if the 45 seconds of Libby's phone might have had RA or whoever may have said their names. Maybe he knew these girls by name, just a thought. And if he did mention their names, then of course that means that they were targeted unless he asked their names somewhere during those seconds. Because how else would you know a random person's name unless you have looked at them or asked about them before or had interactions with them before? Mr. Steve, I don't know what you think about all the fish talk, catfish, and Ron Logan was supposedly buying fish. Rick Down was supposedly watching fish. I can't shake the feeling there's something to the yes. And what does fish mean? There's certain references about and certain groups of what fish looking for fish are. It's across. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of fish out there. Even in the poker world, there's fish. Um, so uh, yeah, there's a lot of things about fish. But Richard Allen been playing on words just, and if he is really that psychopath that would um, enjoy teasing law enforcement by his selection of words, looking at fish, knowing how the play of words could be, that he is of that mentality and that ability. That would have been something that would probably fed part of his fantasy. Uh, Senior B, it's right now. I think it's moving towards October, if I'm not mistaken. Tom in. I think premeditated to him having a gun and knife. $2. Uh, and this will be key. Tom is absolutely correct. Now, the only way that now, do I carry firearms and a knife? Yes. Uh, from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. Yes. So for me, it wouldn't be premeditation for me to have that on me. But if Richard Allen doesn't carry a firearm and a knife from the time he gets up to the time that he goes to bed, then that's outside the norms. And I'm with Tom here that if he is not of that uh, mindset, and of course, I carry law enforcement. I saw too many people that wish they'd had a gun or a knife in their life, and those final moments. That's the basis of carrying something to not only defend yourself but defend others. We don't live in a world whereas crime doesn't exist, and it may not always be focused on us. It may be focused on others, and I still have that sheepdog mentality that I want to protect and protect others just as much as myself. But if he is not of that mentality and he doesn't carry a firearm consistently, then yes, it was premeditated. I agree. I'm making some tracks here, guys. Austin Christian. B15, something 14. I never understand why people have a hard time understanding that both Keegan Kline and Richard Allen are both scumbags and they live in the same small town. It happens all the time. Yes, there's a lot of towns that have a deep pool of scumbags, and all the individuals that are related and uh, interacted with Keegan Kline are scumbags. Those individuals that enjoy and played a part, paid him money, and whatever interactions they have in their little sick world, scumbags. And there's going to be something to the community. Anya, new member. Thank you. Joanna Lynn, I agree. NH Mountains. Why would the offender leave the phone instead of throwing it in the creek? Um, there's a lot of things that goes on, and things get missed, even by the best of offenders. That in the heat of the moment, did he hear something? Did he see something? Was he distracted? What occurred? And why didn't he just throw it in the creek? Was it an oversight or was there a reason for it? Don't know. Have no idea. Not into the mind. But if he ever tells the story of who, and if uh, Richard Allen is determined to be the offender, if he ever does tell the story, then we'll know. Why didn't you do this? Gail Hurd, true gifted one True Crime Web membership. Thank you, Gail. I hope y'all like the new blue light. Harry Winkle, good to see you. That's all right, Josh. I have those moments also that everything just doesn't work sometimes. Been there. Sort of like we were discussing earlier. Certain times things just don't work. Let's see here. Um, Fairmaid wins, thinking it was Chew that was seen spitting. Yeah, it could be anything, but regardless, whatever it is, it's you know, uh, if you was looking for an easy out, you got one there. You got a individual, from my understanding, has certain issues as far as intelligence that would have been an easy sell. And yes, Junior, they may still arrest some of these people. Absolutely. Okay. And Too Much Mom says, I think Richard Allen was an easier patsy. They know he wouldn't talk about what really went on because they were able to get him in line, which means that he still had to be involvement of another group. And is that tentacles? I, yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from with that. Jocelyn has a birthday. Excellent. I don't think you've been flagged yet or anything, Josh. I don't know about it. I haven't flagged you. Now, if anybody gets flagged by me, they get a special coin for the fact that my big finger sometimes just messes up. Everybody, everyone's got a right to be wrong. I'm the president of that club. Here's mirrors, 99 cent super sticker. Thank you. All right. SP-74, you like the Odin bus? In your experience, have you ever seen a case where they knew who did it but delayed the search warrant due to probable cause when trying to build a case? No, I mean, that's the reason you get the search warrant, for the fact that you're looking for to secure evidence of that crime. And there's bad things that can happen to a case that if you, now, you don't have to absolutely the moment you get the search warrant signed, but when you wait, you have the potential that individuals can become aware of the investigation, destroy evidence, harm others, harm themselves, harm officers. There's so much that can happen to harm other family members of the victim. Um, and so there's a lot of things that can be lashed at and lashed out at. And so we don't, uh, I don't understand why you would do that. Now they may be able to explain that, and I'd like to hear that explanation. Yes, CJK, I agree with you that they're not being conspiratorial by arresting and charging him, and not being framed. That's my personal opinion, and there's a lot of people that have differing. And I, like I said, regardless of what those opinions are, we should all reflect and make sure and wait until trial and make that final. Um, Joanna Lynn, isn't it true that the girls didn't make a plan to visit the bridge until almost time to go there? That's another great debate issue. What were all the communications? Um, there's information, and I mean, there's so much um, in the stories, and not so much rumors about it, but even the rumors about that certain individuals had told and knew of them going to the trails that day, that they had plans to go there, to that having contacts earlier. So we'll just have to figure out. Gail Hurd again gifted one true Crown Well membership. Thank you. Appreciate that. Getting there, guys. I'm not anywhere. Say, I still understand law enforcement 2 years after the fact appealing to the public for info on a suspect vehicle when they had the description. Bothers me. Can you think of a possible explanation? I'm trying to that you would always just there's certain things that even in investigation that when you have that you don't get tunnel vision just on one vehicle. That let's close and make sure that there's not other information existing out there. That someone that now that we have awareness brought to it, or you're going to that alibi and saying, and through your public notice that we know there's another vehicle involved, or we're looking for a certain individual or a certain vehicle, and see if they support it or they bring up a false vehicle. Because there's a lot of times that you want to give that offender opportunities to interact with law enforcement. And so, it can be a strategy that let's throw a question out there. Let's get some more information. Let's see who comes forward with new information. So there's a lot of strategies out there. Um, I hope everything's okay. I just knocked over the mic. Blackwater gifted one true Crime Web membership. Thank you, Blackwater. I appreciate everybody. Appreciate everybody being here. We got a busy night, and I'm trying to get caught up. And I'm doing it by myself tonight. Mother of Dragons, $2.99 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate that. Um, Getting ready to go on the road in a few weeks, so got to go getting started. Weather's starting to break. K Music Taylor, you're correct. We don't know all they have. I got a new member, Mark Ferris, became a YouTube member. Welcome aboard. Let's see. Today is Saturday. We'll got to decide what we're going to do about Super Bowl night tomorrow night. We normally have a Super Bowl, and I don't know if I want to interrupt the festivities with a. So I'll probably, rather than have a members only for tomorrow night with Super Bowl stuff, I'll open up the Wednesday, and we'll have a members only, all the members on Wednesday, and so that will take care of that. Thank y'all, guys. And a lot of things go on during the members sometimes. It's a lot. That's where the members and I sometimes we get off track in our members. Richard Allen's arrest came after FBI ISP River search spurred on by KK statements, which is a huge debate and was at the time. Man, you talking about people going after other people and doubting and saying it was just a training exercise and what all this was. And there's still a lot of people out there that argue that points. But recently, KK charges were lowered around the same time the state doubled down on the charges against Richard Allen. KK a witness? There's still, like I say, there's a possibility. I, I'm with you. I'm with you, bud. Fair maiden wins. Is there a dialogue in his head that he would have already thought of being caught and to avoid that and have a rehearsed explanation? Some of these criminals are, they have to fly by the seat of their pants during these interviews because the truth, or if they're the ones responsible for it, they have to have a dialogue that tries to separate them from that time and space of when that crime occurred. So they have something that, oh, if you come at me with this is what I was doing. This is where I was at. Just joined live. How is Mrs. Steve? She's doing well. She's up in there somewhere. Because I knocked my this down here in this studio. I got to get me a bigger table. This table here is not conducive to my microphone staying upright. Roger Roo is here. Or yeah, I guess it'd be Roo. Okay, this will do nicely. Good to see you. Ruffles. Yep. David, good to see you. Mitzi. Um, and call off trained animals. Why not? Why let's not track the offenders? You know, there was canines there. Now, what the sheriff may have known about the canines, but we have, there's evidence that there were canines on the scene. What was the skill sets of those canines? Because there's a lot of canines that are trained in many different disciplines, not just tracking. And they have them now that work not from cadaver to working crime scenes. Let's see here. Margaret. Steve, do we know who and when someone decided to get tower pings? Toby stated someone wanted lights back on at 2:30 because of pings near the Monon High Bridge, old or new pings. Um, BP believed the battery died at 4:30 p.m. Um, no, I don't know, but I think it was relatively early on when they first went missing. That I believe. SB Simmer, True Crime Web. There's an interesting clue no one is discussing. At top of each new charging dock is a accompanying code. Uh, suggest another involved. I haven't looked at that. I will look at that. Thank you for pointing that out. See what that think I can. Like Witter. Oh me. Yeah, like I said, I haven't looked at that code. I'll have to go look at it. Southern Gal. Check her channel if you don't. She has a great channel. But lots of food and Waffle House talking member lives. I've got something special for you for our members on Wednesday. Um, that I went to Waffle House, and I guarantee you can't guess it. But on Wednesday, I'll have during our members thing, I'll have where y'all just throw in there, what could I possibly have brought back from the Waffle House? Dean Darcy, 299 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate your support. I'm only 4 minutes behind. We're catching up, guys. Michelle, good to see you. Robin, good evening. No, you're fine. You're good to have you here. Hello, Michelle. I'm glad you got the audio working right. Um, K9's next day, he could have called for him to be there within an hour and a half, maybe even less. Very possible. I mean, K9s are everywhere now. I'm sure someone, you got two missing kids at that time. There's people that are bringing the dogs. Prison systems have dogs. Oh, me. All righty, guys. All right. Well, I got through all the chat, and I appreciate everybody being here. Everybody's starting to put quest answer of what I brought. But I should have another show on Tuesday. Um, and then I think I've been invited to be on the Drunk Turkey Show Wednesday night also. So I'll have a members only and coordinate and do the timing for it pre Turkey Show, the Drunk Turkey Show. And they've invited me on if everything goes to schedule. There's, things can happen. So I may get kicked off the schedule. But if I do, I do. But I'll see y'all Tuesday. And then I'll see you Wednesday, and then possibly Wednesday night on the Drunk Turkey Show. And y'all stay safe out there. Appreciate everybody, your support. Oh, let me go into the Starred right quick and make sure that I got almost all the and. But if I missed anyone for any of the donations, memberships, gifts, here's your blue lights. We appreciate all of y'all. It means a lot to us. Couldn't do what we do without y'all support. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share, recommend to your friends. As the channel grows, we appreciate it so we can have a bigger impact. And we got a lot of stuff coming up this year and hopefully some good news. But y'all stay safe out there and we'll see you.